Welcome to Science and the Mystical, the bridge between. I'm Maureen Fontaine, and I'm very interested in inspiring, in educating, and stimulating curiosity. It is such a pleasure and an honor to introduce so many incredible guests to you as a viewing audience or a listening audience. And through this, you're going to find all kinds of amazing tips for holistic health, emotional balance, and spiritual connection. Today is a great day because I have Robyn Grant here, who is an amazing person, amazing woman, amazing coach. She's a heart math certified teacher or trainer, coach. She does something called Dance to Your Ability. I'm going to find out more about that later. She's dealt a lot with natural cancer recovery. Robyn is really big into whole food nutrition and growing food aeroponically, which she's introduced me to, which we're going to hold off on that for a whole other episode down the line. Yet I love that she professes to be imperfect. So that's awesome. We have all kinds of room to be ourselves and enjoy food as well. And we'll talk about that as we go through. And I also am super curious about and interested in the part about leaving a legacy and what do you want that to look like. So we'll dig into that further down the road. So welcome, Robyn. Such a pleasure.
Thank you for having me here.
You are so welcome. And you know we've known each other for a bit, and actually quite a bit. And as time has gone on, I've come to know you in so many capacities. Every time I think I know you, you open up this amazing house of new information and new things that you're exploring. And I just marvel at all that you do, and with such passion. Like, you really jump in with both feet. It's like, oh man, I better run and catch up. But no, we all do it differently. Can you talk about how empowerment has been such a huge part of your life?
Sure. Yeah, that's an interesting question. So let's see. I feel like it, sort of speaking in current time, that it's become important for me, and that started at a very young age, but now I'll just talk about current time to start with. Important to, I think I love the concept in term of locus of control, and learning and taking our guidance from our internal guidance system as our first priority, even though we're going to want to listen to other people, see practitioners, get support from outside of ourselves and insight and input. However, for me, empowerment is about, like, can I listen to this voice inside that gives as my highest authority? And can I weave those pieces together of external information coming from others, trusted professionals, maybe caregivers, and knowledge out there, and weave that in with my inner guidance system, and learn how to listen to both together, and then make my choices from there. So for me, that's what empowerment really means.
Well, that's so profound. Like really, when I listen to you talk about that, it's incredibly heartfelt and deep. And so what did you fall in love with first with regards to exploring your own empowerment?
Well, again, a long time ago, sort of these questions come from, like, my answers come from, like, a long time ago. I was really blessed with a couple of things when I was growing up, many things. But one was that I, first of all, lived in a natural environment. We have a lot of nature around us here on Vancouver Island, where I was born and raised. Another was that I had a very hard-headed mother who had been a registered nurse, and she's 86 today, and is actually living here with us. And she She had seen all kinds of things in her experience as a registered nurse, an operating room head nurse, things that she was comfortable with, things she was uncomfortable with. And she wanted to let us know as kids, me and my sister, what she was uncomfortable with so that we could claim our own power with our own health. So she wanted to make sure we knew, like, make sure that you're, you have someone watching out for you, that you're taking care of yourself, that you are making your choices for yourself. You don't let people, tell you what to do without, considering your options and thinking about what's possible. And although she said it in much more harsh terms back then, but that's my reframe.
Nice
And
reframe.
so my reframe. And so that really empowered me because I was diagnosed as celiac when I was 10. And back then there was no gluten-free bread, or there were no celiac options. It was just like who knew what was going on with that? And so, as far as I knew, that was like a lifelong condition that was going to be, something I just had to live with and had no control over except to go on this special diet, which I did. But it really got me thinking, like, what else could I do? What else is possible? Because I still wasn't well, even on the gluten-free diet. So I started wondering, what else is possible out there? And one thing led to the other. And I, learned about all kinds of things as I've gone through my life. So I haven't had to be a victim to a chronic health illness, even though it has been definitely challenging. And another thing that came to me was when I was 16, I had the real honor of kind of being adopted by a mentor who she prefers to remain nameless because she doesn't like to be in the public eye, but a beautiful woman, a teacher of women, who taught me a piece that was really critical for me, which was that to listen to my body for information. So to listen to, that feelings were residing in my body, and that I could listen to those feelings in my body for information and feedback, and basically finding out what was comfortable, what was uncomfortable, what felt good to me, what didn't feel good to me, and looking for guidance from my inner guidance system. And so those pieces have been really profound for me. And I've been able to take those foundations, and build and grow those foundations upon those foundations. And as I've gone through my own life with different ups and downs, challenges and joys, and all the different things, I've been able to make use of those foundational tools that I'm super grateful for.
Wow, you were so blessed even through the harsh teachings. I
Yes.
think that was common in those times. That was how you parented. And yeah, so I like your reframe on all of that. And you
Yeah.
have a lot of mentors in your past. Like in conversation, it was like, oh my God, you were around some incredible people.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've been really blessed, and I've had a lot of opportunities for very interesting experiences in life, between health challenges, travel, going different places, and also I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs. So my parents were both, they were self-employed, and my father in particular had chosen to work from home so that he could be there for his children. And this was back in the 60s. So he
Oh
chose a
my.
career in the 50s. So because he knew of working from home. He was actually a watchmaker back in the
Oh my
world of wearing a
goodness.
watch, which I'm not even wearing today. Because most of us have our iPhones, right?
Yeah.
But he was, you know, wanted to be at home with his kids, and he was very technically oriented. So, and curious kind of person. So he became a watchmaker, and he worked at home in his shop at home. And so I got to be able to be around him when I was growing up, and my mom, who was a registered nurse who worked from home when I was little, teaching Lamaze. So she was a natural childbirth teacher. And so I've had a lot of interesting experiences in my life for sure, starting at a young age. Yeah.
Amazing. Wow. And now you are a caregiver for your mom.
Yes. We have my mom living with us here in our home. She wasn't able to stay in an external care system in her condition. She has some cognitive impairment. And also as a coach, I was able to do well, anybody could do this really, but I took my investigative mind and started researching, what is possible, what else is possible when you're told that, you have a family member has a condition that has no solutions and that you can't do anything about it. I'm a person, really because of my mom's kind of foundational drive to have us kind of take health in a different light. I'm a person who doesn't believe that. I believe that like there's always something we can do for ourselves to be empowering, even if somebody lives with a condition for the rest of their lives. And, we all die at some point of something in some way, however that is, whether it's gentle, not gentle, easy, not easy. There are all kinds of things we can do to basically improve quality of life. And when I was going through my own healing journey a few years ago, I was empowered with the idea that it's all about quality of life. And so when my mom had her diagnosis and we started to think about, what can we do to help her have good quality of life as long as she's here. And so it's been 11 years now, and she's we've taken a lot of interesting, just simple application, kind of things you can apply easily in your day-to-day life, or maybe not easily, but they're quite simple. And just applying them into her life with her. So things like nutrition and some supplementation, and also things like sound frequencies, music, movement, rhythm for building new neural pathways, journaling, using the heart math techniques for actually helping her with self-regulation when she hits moments of intense anxiety or sundowning. So I'm grateful for that. There's so much we can do to actually care for ourselves and even support others in their own care too.
Well, it's really beautiful. Like the circle of reciprocity is just so evident in your situation. And man, you went through a lot of interviewing a lot of people to help you with the care of mom. And it takes a really special person to, like, first of all, for you to orchestrate all of that, but also to, as far as the helper, it takes someone who's really flexible with the way you approach things. So they have to be on board with you. How has that gone?
Well, I would say that it's definitely been a challenge for sure. Just being even sort of administrator of someone else's care has been hard. Um, it's a lot of pieces to kind of, I'm not a super organized person naturally. I'm kind of like, I'm all over the place doing stuff all the time. So to focus in and be able to, organize a care plan and administer the care plan and teach the care plan, all these things, and then follow up on that and make sure it's all happening. And I have to say that I've been really fortunate to attract some really beautiful women who have been caring for my mom. I've had different caregivers, but she has a beautiful team of people who have been able to catch the vision, have easily caught the vision because of their own priorities around well-being, for, how to have the best quality of life with this condition that's, we're told generally has no answers. And so we get to have conversations about, like, okay, we did the routine today and this is what happened. And we didn't do this part because she wasn't up for it, or she really wanted to do this part. So we did more of that. And so there's been a need to become very flexible and learn for me more about communication with others. I'm pretty introverted type person, so it's been challenging to rise to the occasion of like needing to have those conversations about, how to keep that care fluid, and also realize, everyone can just do their best, right? including me.
Mhm.
We can all do our best. And the other part has been managing my own self-care in amongst caring, being a family caregiver is really something that I'm drawing a lot of attention to for myself. And in my coaching also right now is like, how can a caregiver really be sure to find ways to regulate your nervous system, reduce stress, take time off. Um, and part of that, a lot of that for me has been learning the willingness to let go of the result, and also kind of put down some of my control, because
Mm.
when we love somebody, sometimes we don't want them to suffer at all, and that's something that we can't control. We can bring compassion to a person's life. That's been a challenging learning for me, because I like to protect people, all these different things, and it's not really, we can just do what we can do, right? But
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
pretty amazing to see what kind of simple applications are available, between nutrition and sound and just basic nurture, being sensitive, and also being, keeping that balance in the care when you're a caregiver. It's quite something to do, and I'm super grateful for the help that I've had with these
Oh,
beautiful women who have come to help my mom and
that's
me, actually
amazing.
come and help me
Yeah,
also. They're there for me. Yeah.
absolutely.
And my sister, it's the caregivers are, um, they're also caregivers of the family members too. It's a big role to take.
Yeah. Wow. Now you take nutrition really seriously with mom. You've had some great successes.
Yes.
Can you tell us about the approach you were using um, to turn or to support the, was it an Alzheimer diagnosis? Oh,
Dementia.
dementia,
Yes.
excuse me.
So they just called it dementia, and it was diagnosed through, scans and so on,
Mm,
the best that it can be, um, currently.
mm,
So, basically, I came upon a study around 2000, and I don't know, not really sure what year it was. If quite a few years ago now, about 9 years ago or something like that, I came upon a study, um, that was by Dr. Dale Bredesen, and he is a brain researcher around Alzheimer's and dementia. Did a lot of his research at UCLA Berkeley. And when I read it through, I'm a health coach, so I'm always interested in lifestyle over medication. That's something that I personally prioritize for myself, even though medication is sometimes necessary for some people in
mm.
some situations. And I'm not against medication. It's just that I prefer to take the lifestyle approach if it's possible, as a priority. And um, so he had this amazing lifestyle program that he'd put these 10 people on. And I think his study was in like 2003 or 2006. I can't remember. And it was really profound to read it, because so many of these people who took part in this, it was a behavioral study. They really had reversal of symptoms, and some of them had complete reversal of symptoms. And I think not like 9 out of the 10 people actually had significant reversal of symptoms and ability to go on with a higher quality of life. And so I started following his work, and part of a big part of the protocol that he recommends is, um, the way that the person eats, because he wants to get people burning fat for fuel instead of carbohydrates for fuel, and reestablish something that he calls metabolic flexibility. And so, given that my mom had, she'd had some challenges with blood sugars, it was interesting to hear that. Um, and what I noticed when we started her out on this diet, and we did that kind of part-time for a number of years because she was living in collective group settings where they had collective meals, and so she couldn't really control all of the food. But we started by like just doing what we could, and we noticed some changes. And then when she moved in with us 3.5 years ago, she got onto this diet that he calls Keto Flex 12-3, which is not the same as a standard keto diet. It's a little different. We started her on that full time, and the change was profound. And so we've been able to notice, like, if her ketone levels start to get out of whack, we notice a change in her behavior very quickly. If she gets too much carbohydrate, this kind of thing. So what's great about this particular diet is that it's just healthy. It would be healthy for anybody, really. It's like tons of produce and healthy fats like avocado, extra virgin olive oil, olives, raw nuts, seeds, a little bit of, it could be animal or vegetable protein, depending on, a person's preference or maybe what they can tolerate. And really almost no grains, and that's, I wouldn't say that it's for everybody, this diet. Not everybody does thrive on this diet, but in my mom's case, she actually really does. And what's been really interesting is that in her 80s, she's been able to actually reestablish a higher level of metabolic flexibility. So even if now she gets some carbohydrates, we decide it's like we're having a day where we're not going to comply, a non-compliance day. She's okay. She may be a little bit kind of spaced out, or we may notice a bit of behavioral change, but she can recover from that and regain her ground again. It becomes challenging if there's a lot of sugar, like, very sweet dessert or something with white sugar, white stuff, white rice, this type of thing, white flour. That would really it tends to be really hard on her. But fascinating to me that even in your 80s, a person's 80s, she's been able to regain metabolic flexibility, whereas previously to being on this diet for, she's been on it now for 3.5 years, and it took about probably 6 months to get her really, in a fluid state with this and notice the changes were sticking. But previous to that, if she had any carbohydrate, she'd fall asleep, right? Anything, she'd just be asleep right away. She was falling asleep at the table, falling asleep in the middle of the day, not able to verbalize, in a way that was, she was having trouble with verbalization and that kind of thing. And so considering she's had the condition for such a long time, like, it's really inspiring to see how, to me it is, to see what we can actually do so we can, how would I say it? If we're going to be here, it's great if we have quality of life. People don't, I think most people don't really want to stay in a highly compromised state, being alive. It's hard to be like that, right? Ongoingly for years. And I've known people, good friends, who have had loved ones who have been in an institution for, 10 years or so, and unable to speak, unable to, have a conversation or relate in any way, didn't know who their loved ones were. That's really hard. So being able to have some sort of an impact in that way has been, I would say, absolutely worthwhile to do that. And I've learned a lot about it for myself too, about, how to care for my own health in that area also. So lots of plants, lots and lots of plants and healthy fats. That's a big deal, I think, in as far as, taking care of ourselves.
So what does your diet look like?
It's pretty much the same. I do eat some carbohydrates, and I'll stick with things like millet or buckwheat, something like that. But I hardly ever do eat grains. My body is just happier without them. But again, also for myself, I've developed some better metabolic flexibility. So, we eat lots of berries, big smoothie in the morning, or now I make smoothie bowls sometimes too, instead of just a smoothie, because it's good to chew.
Yes, it
To chew our
is.
food. And also, everything we eat, unless we're having a non-compliant day, which, we allow ourselves that from time to time, is lots of salad, lots of greens, vegetables, all different types of vegetables. I personally stay away from nightshade vegetables. They don't really love me very much. My body doesn't love them very much. But a little bit of animal protein, always, free range, organic. I say always, but as much as humanly possible.
Yeah.
The odd egg. I'm mostly eat a vegetarian diet, although I don't really eat dairy very much. But again, sometimes I let myself have a little bit. And so, like I've learned over the years, having grown up on a farm where we had lots of fresh produce, I've learned over the years to really flood my body with as many plants as possible. And that became very evident when I had my own health recovery journey a few years ago. I needed to eat even more plants than I already was. And so I use my Vitamix blender for blending up, lots of greens and vegetables, that some of which we grow on our tower gardens. I told you about that before. And then, taking also supplemental capsules of fruits and vegetables and berries, both for me and for my mom, has been a profound change in our ability to stay healthy. Just flooding the body with as many types of plants as you can every day. Is that variety, I think, is really, really important. It's a place where I think it's easy to get stuck on eating the same things every day, the same maybe 5 vegetables or fruits, vegetables and fruits sometimes. So being able to get that variety is really a key to, certainly for me, it's been, I've been able to measure that even in my, well, you can speak to the live blood work, but even in my regular blood work, my what would you call it, dry blood work, I've been able to see, how my body is able to maintain a certain level of healthfulness with having lots and lots of plants. And so that's just become a way of life for me now.
Absolutely. Well, you had your own health scare. Would you tell us all about that, or be willing to share?
Sure. So I had a history of fibrous breasts, and since I was in my teens, I would say as long as I had breasts, I had fibrous breasts, and I was told that that was normal. And now I would say, if anybody tells you that that's normal, I would give that a second look. And it's really struggled with cysts and pain and cyclical, menstrual cycle pain with my breast cysts and so on. And then also, whoever really knows what the reasons are, then anything happens, and it really doesn't particularly matter. What matters is what we do about how we respond how we respond to what's happening. So I don't like to get too much into causes, because I actually don't know. Nobody knows. There's genetic factors, there's environmental factors, there's food factors, there's stress factors, there's all these things. And so what I learned through the process of being diagnosed with breast cancer, PR positive breast cancer, when in 2016, was that this was the moment of choice. Like, what would I do with this now moving forward? I could look at all the, try and figure out, oh, what caused this? What are all the reasons? And I could see all kinds of different possibilities there. And what I realized was that none of that actually mattered to my recovery moving forward. And so fortunately, I had found this tumor in my breast. I called it the visitor. And my friend, actually, my longtime mentor, called it the visitor. And I took that from her. I said, great
It's
name.
awesome.
Called it the visitor. And so I basically started to ask myself, what is needed here? What do I need to do first? What is, how do I need to respond to this? And started just doing what I knew so far. I knew about things like frankincense oil and eating more produce. So I started doing those things right away before I even had a diagnosis. Because I think sometimes we kind of know things about ourselves, even if we don't have the official title or whatever, the official word back from the medical system, we kind of know what's going on with our body. So, so I started kind of, okay, let's see what I can do. And somewhere in there, I came to you for live blood analysis. I remember that I did that. I can't remember what the point was in which I did it, but
I think it was pre-diagnosis.
Was it pre-diagnosis?
That's what I recall, because then you reached out later with some more information.
Okay, right.
That's my memory bank on that.
I remember it now. So I'm sitting in your office and you're like, yep, there's those guys there and these guys here. And, there's a bunch of undigested material getting into your bloodstream. How's your digestion? And I'd been struggling with my digestion for really my entire life. And even though it had improved in the years before, something was not really right. And what I remember, if I remember correctly, you had found that we could see it right on the screen. It was really amazing. All this undigested material and these little critters going about, that looks good. I think I'll have a meal on these undigested stuff running around in your blood. And so I was like, wow, what can we do? So you helped me with some of the cleanup from in my blood. And I don't exactly remember what we did. I think there were some drops involved and some different things and a diet. I remember the diet, a very specific diet. And from that point forward, I started playing around with this dietary thing around cancer and cancer recovery, because there are a lot of different opinions. Like, you should eat this way, you should eat that way, you should be no animal protein, totally vegan, none of this, none of that. Where I settled into was a high plant-based diet with whatever amount of animal protein I needed, which didn't seem to be very much, to keep me going. And also I had been eating, I'm not an anti-soy person, but I had been eating quite a lot of soy in the past, because I really liked it, and I thought it felt good, but I think there was some, that wasn't necessarily the best thing for my particular health profile with what I was dealing with. So it took me quite a long time to actually be able to eat any soy again at all in any form, because it would just trigger these breast pain issues, so I'm very careful with that. And there's, lots of research showing it's great for people with breast health. And then there's the opposite research. So who knows? I try to listen to my body, and what it's telling me is safe and good and what isn't. So, so I don't know if I'm actually answering your question, because I've gone off on a tangent.
Oh, I'm enjoying listening.
But I basically started, we had, I went to an organization that I learned about from a Juice Plus conference I was at in California. There's an organization called beatcancer.org. They're not connected to the company, but they had a booth there with lots of information about cancer and healing cancer and so on. And I had collected some pamphlets from them long before I had any issues. This was back in 2013. And so then I pulled out the pamphlet and I was like, I'm going to call these people. So I called them up, and they were a fabulous resource for me, and I cannot recommend that organization enough for people who are concerned about cancer, have had it in their family, don't want to have it, or have recovered, want to stay healthy, any of those, because what they do is it's doctors and naturopaths, and they do coaching for people by donation. And they don't tell you what to do with your health. They don't tell you what treatments to do, anything like that, but they help you with a lifestyle plan for things like stress reduction, nutrition, and putting yourself on the map, things like that. And that was a real challenge for me because I was so busy doing things for other people. We'd had some challenges in our family over the years, and I was busy like solving problems and go, and get this done and get that done and make sure I solve it all. And I had really put myself on the back burner. And so what they helped me with was things like, prioritizing my own well-being. So I changed my lifestyle. I changed where I was living. I hired some people to take care of things that I was doing that I couldn't really afford to be doing. I needed to be focused on my own health. And I realized that I was trying to be a superhuman. I was like, I can do anything. I can recover from anything, any amount of exhaustion. I had this idea that I could handle anything. Mm-hmm. And that was really a big pivot point for me when I started to really look at that attitude that I could handle anything, and was not listening to my body. And so wasn't taking fatigue or stress or exhaustion, anything like that, as indicators from my body saying, hey, it's time to, take a break. So I was in a bit like savior mode, saving this situation, saving that situation. And so what I realized is that at Beat Cancer, they asked me to go for a walk by myself every day for 30 minutes, no dog, no friends, just by myself. I could listen to music or chant or whatever. And it took me 6 months to enjoy going for a walk by myself.
Whoa, 6 months?
Because my mind was so busy worrying about, what we call in my heart math practice, we call it overcare, worrying about what if I don't do this? What if I don't do that? Is this person going to be okay? Is that person? I was just really, I would say I had a bit of an ego trip going on with how powerful I thought I was. And so that was a big, a wake up moment for me, was realizing the world continues to turn and churn without my input. And it's okay if not everybody is okay all the time. I felt very overly responsible. And when I spoke with a geneticist in Vancouver, who, did my genetic workup and so on, after talking to me for a while, he said, you fit the profile of any other woman I've ever spoken to with this type of breast cancer. So there's an energetic profile that goes with that type of breast cancer. and any other type, really, I think, if you look at the work of Louise Hay, for example. But now the geneticists are waking up to it, and they're going this person is has that profile. And so being able to actually change that inner state of self-priority was hard. I read a book called What If You Could Just Skip the Cancer? Trying to remember the author's name. She's Canadian, a Canadian mathematician / farmer's wife. And, she wrote this great book called What If You Could Just Skip the Cancer? And once I read that, I read that book and I thought, yeah, we don't have to continue. I don't have to continue with these behaviors. I can choose to say no. And I remember doing some Louise Hay work, and she said, the first time you say no to someone, they'll be angry. And the second, if you've been a people pleaser all your life, they'll feel angry. The second time you say no to someone, they'll be confused. And they'll be like, what's going on? The third time you say no on the same subject, they'll just kind of forget about it. They'll realize that you're serious. So it doesn't have to be confrontational, doesn't have to be a problem. So over time, I've been slowly learning to say no more often. And that is good for my immune system.
Wow.
So I think it's good for all of our immune systems to have a healthy state of saying no. So a healthy habit of saying no. Not easy for me for sure, but
Well, I'm so happy you said yes for today.
yes, thank you. And I'm so grateful to you for helping me in the beginning of that journey, because it gave me a really interesting understanding of what might be going on, inside my gut, for example, or in my blood. And then to be able to revisit that, I think it was maybe 3 or 4 months later, revisit that and look like, oh, this is looking better. This is looking better. Okay, now which direction do we take? Because you can't get that same feedback from the regular blood work. It's not the same feedback. This is much more detailed.
I think the beauty is that, like, medically they can give you numbers, whereas the live blood is getting what happens before you hit the numbers or tag the system. So you can see what's underlying, sort of the between space, what's not actually being expressed outwardly yet.
Yes.
Yeah, because it's coming, but if it's coming, we just turn it around.
Isn't that great to be able to get that? Like, what do you call that? Subclinical? Is that like a subclinical state?
Yeah.
So before you have the, actual noticing what you're feeling in your body, or you have symptoms, you can actually get information. Or even if you already do, you can still, like I did, you can still have maybe more information about what to do with that.
Absolutely. Well, it's been, I was the biggest skeptic, and soon to find out that it had so much value, and it just, fills my heart to know I can help others that way.
You first did live blood analysis for me in Kelowna many years ago.
That's a long time ago. That's like 20 years ago.
Yeah, that's right. Is it that long?
Yeah.
I don't think it's quite that long. Maybe 15.
Okay. Well, I might have come back to do blood at that time. Maybe I did. I think
at that little health food store.
That's right. That was a coming back.
Yeah. And that was the first time I'd ever heard of this. And I was like, wow, like I didn't really take it all that seriously at the time. I thought, well, this is pretty cool. It sort of was like, how interesting is that? Is this something I can really believe?
Right.
But then when I had a health diagnosis, or a disease diagnosis, I guess you could call it, a glitch in the system, I thought of you, and I thought of, you know what, I'm going to go and see Maureen and get my blood looked at and see what I could be doing that I don't know about yet. So that's kind of been, and then I've been back to you since, and I'm due to come back to you again.
Yay.
Yay. And that's kind of the main approach that I've taken with my healing journey in that situation. And, in general, it has been like looking outside, like what's available, what do I feel I need, but also looking inside, like what do I actually feel that I need to do for myself, or that I need for myself. And that can be kind of like a foggy area, I think, for a lot of people, is like how to listen inside. So I've been fortunate to be exposed to the HeartMath Institute and the HeartMath model of stress resilience techniques. And in that practice of really we're utilizing tapping into the intelligence of the heart in order to, one, regulate our nervous system and become more coherent, heart coherent with our heart rate. But also we can tap into our heart intelligence to understand, like, to actually ask ourselves questions about our next steps. What do I need to do next? And so that we can, like, learn to listen to that sort of intuitive or wisdom that's coming from our heart, rather than always listening to that external voice, which is very valuable because we want to get information from experts also. At least I think it's important to do that. I do now. I never used to think that, but I do think it's really important to I had my longtime mentor really encouraged me to look at all the information, like, go to a surgeon, go talk to a surgeon, go talk to, different practitioners and medical practitioners, find out what's going on, learn what their opinion is, and then listen to your internal voice also. And so being able to tap into that heart intelligence actually really helped me to take those steps, because while I was listening to external information and opinions, I was also able to, at the same time, listen, like, does that feel like the next best step for me? Or maybe there's something else, or maybe there's both. And so I started to really be able to learn how to weave that together, of listening to both to others and to myself, but ultimately taking my guidance from myself. And I think that one of the things that I've heard in cancer recovery kind of research is that the people who do the best with cancer recovery do one of two things. Either they say, I completely trust my doctor and my health professionals, and I'm going to do everything that they say, and that's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to be fine, and I'm going to recover. Or they say, I'm going to make my own choices. I'm going to, I'm going to, like, find out what it is that I need. I'm going to drive my own ship, and I'm going to have a health team that's going to help me with my every choice, but I'm going to be the person in charge of my recovery, and I'm going to do well. And those people also do really well. And the people who do less well, according to what I've read, are people who say, I don't have a choice. I have to do what I'm told. And I don't know how it's going to turn out. And so this is really interesting to me in that what I learned from my own experience with that, I am what I know about myself. I do not like people telling me what to do. I'm a very stubborn person.
Good to know.
I'm like, don't tell me what to do, and stay out of my way. I'm a very kind of, like, stubborn person. And so that can work to our benefit, right? As long as we're not blind to other people's input. I think having a kind of a drive or a vision, let's put it that way, of our own well-being can be really powerful, and it can actually help us to stay on track with our own energy system of staying healthy. So whether we listen to somebody else and we put we decide consciously, I'm going to do this, and this is what my plan is, and I'm going to recover, I'm going to be well. That's also taking you're making a decision for yourself, a strong decision. Or whether you decide, I'm going to drive my own ship, I'm going to do, what I feel I need, and I'm going to, recover, and I'm going to be well, and I'm going to, I'm in control with my health team helping me out. Either one actually takes a really strong stand for well-being, and that energy is actually turning on our immune system to work in a certain way. And I once met a woman who was really incredible, who also wishes to remain nameless. She was a radiologist, and she told me she had leukemia years before. When she was in her late teens, and she made a decision. This is not going to control me. I can fully recover. And she deepened her meditation practice, changed her diet, made some very conscious decisions about actually how she was, she basically decided, I am healthy. And she started lining up her body with her mind. So she made her mind and her energy in control of her body and not the other way around.
It's amazing, right?
So it's a quantum healing process is what that is, where you actually say, I am more than the body. And if you listen to any of the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza,
yes,
and there's so many others, really, Kelly Turner wrote that book, Medical Miracles, I think it's called. And so, there's all kinds of things that if we decide that it's the vision that is important here, my body is actually like at my service. Oh, I forgot about my body for a while. I forgot about myself. I compromised myself, whatever. Who knows? There's no blame and shame involved in having a condition. We just need to move on to the next thing. So it's like, can we put that vision ahead of us and line up all of our actions and our energy with that vision of well-being? It's irrelevant what anybody else says. Actually, completely irrelevant. There's so many examples of people who have been told that they have a terminal illness and they're never going to live. And hey, some people die, some people live. Death is not the worst thing in the world, right? I have a dear friend and mentor, Shevakar, who says, it's like walking through from the kitchen to the living room or whatever. It's we're not. I think we're very hyper focused on how terrible death might be in our world, but may not be. So, but just being able to actually take that vision and line yourself up with the vision of well-being. I realized that was a really, really important part of what I needed to be focused on. So I told almost nobody about my condition. I only told people who I knew were able to hold that positive focus until I was strong enough, because I actually didn't feel strong enough to in the beginning emotionally to hold that vision for myself. So I needed to hold it and get lots of backup of people who were like, yes, you've got this, and so it's a fascinating thing, the healing process. I think we have lots of power with our mind, with our emotions, generating renewing emotions like we do through the heart math tools. Like learning how to generate renewing emotions is an amazing skill. And so anyway, I've been blessed with a lot of beautiful people in my world and lots of support. That's for sure. I'm very grateful.
Amazing. So like you're such an example of being true to self and respecting what the body wants and needs, and integrating the mind and the heart into the whole process and engaging with your supportive community. And that's what you offer to people who are on a health journey. It doesn't have to be cancer though, right? Is that correct?
I would prefer if they didn't have cancer already when they came to me. They came before.
They came before, right? Don't wait.
Don't wait.
It's the same in my world, right? Like as practitioners, we want healthcare, not disease care, to be what you're after.
That's
ideally.
right.
Yeah.
And having said that, I think it's quite normal as human beings to wait until we have a problem to fix it, because we think, oh, it's not broken, don't fix it. But like, we don't have to be, not to say that having cancer or any other health condition means we're broken. I actually take a health condition or a health challenge of some type as information that we are telling ourselves that we need to pay attention to something. In my case, there was lots of things I needed to pay attention to around self-love. And I'm still learning that every day. It's not like, I've got it figured out. It's all, it's one day at a time, right? So
and that's a human condition, is to continue practicing falling in love with self.
Yes, right. I love that. And I
Mhm.
love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Mm.
And so what I find beautiful is and I love to teach, is being able to help others to learn some skills for, just to put it simply, like having a choice, having more choices about how we're responding to our lives. So we do that through heart math, learning to regulate our nervous system through our breath, through where we put our focus, through regulating our heart rate. It's called heart rate variability. And I'm a fairly new heart math trainer. So there's heart math's been around for a long time. I've been training others and helping others with that now for about a year or so. And then more recently, I've been integrating some really new fascinating stuff, which is using sound. I'm taking some training with Jim Donovan around using our voice, no matter how in tune or out of tune it is. It really makes absolutely no difference whether we can keep a beat or whether we can keep a tune. Doesn't matter. We have all these built-in natural systems for well-being, and using the breath and the heart rate with heart math is one of those. And also we can use the sound that comes out of our mouth to, well, I wouldn't even say comes out of our mouth, the sound, because some of them we use keeping our mouth closed, humming, but being able to make sound, let's put it that way, and have our body becomes like a resonating chamber for frequency through sound. And now there's quite a lot of research showing different sounds, that some of these have been used through history, like in ancient cultures, but intentionally using sound to actually vibrate a specific frequency for a purpose. So whether it's to help with deeper sleep, to help with digestion, to help with immune system health, even for pain control, our body can, as I'm sure you know, our body can produce its own pain chemical, its own painkillers, and also its own antidepressants. So we can produce oxytocin on our own. Right? I mean, we do that when we smile, we do that when we touch our heart, we do that when we have a hug, but there are sounds that we can make to actually vibrate frequency inside our body to produce oxytocin and lots of other happy chemicals. So I've been investigating that and having a lot of fun with that, and then blending that together with breath and, with also with movement. Something that the same teacher, Jim Donovan, calls neurorhythm brain balancers, where we're actually building new neural pathways with call and response rhythm. So, one person, you can do this in a circle with a bunch of people or with one other person, or you can even do it by yourself. Just, tapping out rhythms, like watching a rhythm or listening to it and tapping it out, and then doing another one, tapping it out. So every time we learn something new, whether it's a song, whether it's a dance, brushing our teeth with the other hand. I mean, most people know this, right? Every time we do something new, we're building new neural pathways. So what's been said about our brain, we only have so many brain cells and they're disappearing as we age. And eventually, our brain isn't functioning. Well, that's clearly not true. We see all kinds of people into their 90s, 100, they're sharp as can be. But we can actually become very intentional about it. And we don't have to learn an instrument or a language. Those are great to do. And we can do that too. I'm trying to learn, a variety of things right now. but we can actually just use rhythm to tap out rhythm, or sound to tap, to actually do sound. Every time we do that new thing, we actually are creating and strengthening that new neural pathway. So,
Do you know, if I can just interrupt there, because I think this is
yeah,
so fascinating.
it is.
I'm so excited you're learning it, because I want to be your first student.
Yay.
Yay.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. But so one of my children was brain injured or head injured at 7 years old. So one of the ways that, the prognosis was not good. And I'm a little bit like you, but you're like even more intense that way. But nobody was going to tell me that there was no hope. Not happening. So I found somebody who did brain gym at the time.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And then I found Suzuki piano lessons, which is all about repeating rhythms and learning by ear and being with the music rather than just reproducing music.
Yes.
And did all kinds of things that are essentially what you're talking about. So even though I understood them on a super base level at the time because it was an intense period in my life. But to hear you talk about it now, it's exactly what you're talking about. And I'm
Yes, it
like, it
is
just brings
exactly
me
the
such
same thing.
joy that you're doing it, because I know it works. My daughter, exceeded all expectations and is now like a thriving 42-year-old woman, like that's amazing.
Yes. Yes, that is incredible. And I just want to acknowledge that it was your belief and vision that gave her that opportunity. And we all need to
Thank
have a
you.
health advocate, and that should be, our parents, or, it's a teary moment, when you
Yeah.
realize that somebody has your
Too.
back, right?
Yeah.
And so we're taught to be alone in this world and to have to be independent. And I prefer to say we need to be interdependent. And so, your daughter was really fortunate that you had her back, not just in kind of like the, we'll do what we can, but you had a stubbornness and a determination to find solutions and creative solutions. So, that's really interesting. You mentioned brain gym, because I learned brain gym from my first beautiful mentor, who doesn't want to be in the public eye.
Mhm.
And and she taught me brain gym with the cross crawling and all
Yes.
that stuff, because I had dyslexia and was really hard to read and really hard to focus and all these things. And also Suzuki piano was how I learned to play the piano when I was a
No
child.
way. It
Yes,
was
and now
playing in the house all the time, I made
it's
sure.
really
Yeah.
amazing. And so these just learning these, like, your daughter built new neural pathways, right? Presumably that's what happened, and you
Yes.
challenged the brain to actually rise to the occasion. So I will be, when I finish my training, I will be doing classes, and it's really fun. um I've been a very serious person most of my life, like trying to solve problems, and lately my partner Keith was like, what do you love to do? You know, it doesn't always have to be like solving problems, because he and I are both problem solvers, serious people. He does it in environmental issues, and I do it with health. But it's like, well, maybe we can combine both, right? Doing things that are helpful to us and others, and having a really good time doing it. And it makes me think of like all the tribal dancing and music back through all the various cultures and so on. And as children, we always want to tap out a beat, and we always want to like make interesting sounds, and we're using our voice and we're using our bodies to move around. And basically what we're doing is regulating our nervous system through all these things. So
Even like a baby cries, that's to release the nervous
yeah,
system.
that's
Yeah.
right. So there's all these ways that we naturally, sucking your thumb does certain things for your brain function, and all these things we naturally do, just like all the other parts of nature out there. We're part of nature. We as human beings I'm sort of reflecting on how we as human beings have all these built-in natural systems for self-regulation and balance and homeostasis. And that um, we've had the option through free will to kind of just walk away from all those things. But, the birds keep chirping and the cats keep purring and, the
Yes.
trees keep shedding their leaves and regrowing leaves. And, it keeps happening. But as human beings, we kind of have been able to choose, well, we're not going to do what's natural for us. We're going to get involved with all these other things. So
Mhm. Mhm.
being able to come home back into like, what feels good. And oh, by the way, it's really actually good for us and it helps us age more gracefully and
Mhm.
be more of who we can be for the rest of our lives. Like, how fun is that?
Amazing. Well, I'm so glad you're having some fun because we forget, right? Like those of us that are more sciencey or just really dedicated to our work. I know for myself, I have to go, time to play. And it's like, but what do I do
Yeah.
to have fun? Like it's the,
Tap out a rhythm, sing a
yeah,
song.
it's
I
just
mean,
like so interesting, right?
right. And, I would say one of the things that I find interesting is that um, I know I have always tended to think, oh, in order to teach something or share something, we have to be an expert. We have to be like the
Mhm.
best at it, right? And what I'm realizing is like we just need to be able to do something that know how to do it and actually be,
Mhm.
living it ourselves. And then share it with other people. This whole idea of having to take our our learning from these expert people, and you have to be a perfect person in order to do anything, right? I think it's really quite harmful to human self-esteem. We kind of, I guess what I'm saying is like we have these built-in natural systems for self-regulation and self and well-being, and it doesn't none of it is rocket science, and
Yeah.
sure there are lots of things we want to have an expert for, right? And but I guess what I'm saying is it's like we can just learn these things and then go ahead and do them in our own lives. So that's what I
Absolutely.
really feel lit up about as a health coach and as a person is like just like let's learn these things because there's never going to be an end to all the things we can learn. I like what happens with light and how it hits our eyes and how that hits our brain. What happens with sound and all the different sound frequencies. What is our skin doing, in relation to the environment? Like there's so many things
Mhm.
to learn that
Amazing,
it's
right?
just an like the human being and in relation to nature and other people
Mhm.
is such a fascinating experience to be
It's so
curious
true.
about. So that's
Yeah.
what I'm kind of stoked on these days is like, what else can we learn about
Yeah. What else is there,
our
right?
built-in self-regulation system? Like,
I love it.
and it's, I find it fun, and so, um, and even like, lots of times people don't want to change their diet, right? Like it's a drag, just don't want to do that. Well, how can we bring that to life? How can you bring
Mhm.
food to life instead of it being a duty to eat well? Let's bring it to
Absolutely.
life.
So
Maybe,
I would like to have you back again because we've used up our time and more, and it's just been so fascinating. But
uh,
would you come on again to talk about the tower gardens and the what is it, aeroponics?
yeah,
Is
that's it.
that, yeah, because you introduced me to the tower garden and I'm just kind of nursing it back to life after cleaning it up after summer. And but I just am stoked with it. It's an amazing thing. And you have such a good attitude towards food. And I want to talk about how you used that system to support your journey through that health crisis that you had, or not even crisis, but little bump in the carpet.
The
And
visitor.
the visitor, that was it. I was trying to remember the name, but that might be really fun to do because that's a huge part of who you are.
Yeah,
That
sure.
sound good?
I'm happy to talk about aeroponic
Yay.
growing anytime. And just talk with you anytime. It's just a pleasure to be here with you, my friend Maureen. And
Mm.
thanks so much for asking me to be on the podcast. Kind of new and exciting and interesting and a little bit like weird to be online talking on a podcast. I really appreciate your care. Thank you
Well,
so
I
much.
really appreciate you being here, and thank you so much for all the, like, you're just a fountain of information, and yeah, big heart and this
Yeah.
incredible brain.
Mm,
Amazing.
thank you. My my realization over time is that we all have so much to learn from one another. And like you said in the beginning, like we can't all know everything. And being able to make that change from the idea that we need to be independent to the idea that we need to be interdependent and learn from one another, work and play and live and connect with one another, and that includes nature out there, like not just human beings, but all the beings. Um,
Hmm.
it really, it's it changes the frequency of how we're going about learning, and it makes it collaborative and fun. I think we're tribal beings, really, so we're community type humans are social animals, so
Hmm. And it contributes to changing the frequency of this earth plane.
yes.
It's such a positive thing. So I
Mm.
just have trust in that. So thank you, Robyn.
Thank you,
We will have
Maureen.
you on
Much love to
again. I
you.
can't wait. Yeah, as well.
Me too. Talk
Thank
to you
you.
soon. Okay, bye.